Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on agentic data engineering on MotherDuck. We're so excited that you could join us today. We have a lot of great content to go through. Before we dive in, we'll give people just a quick second to log in and join us. And as people are getting in, I would love to introduce today's speakers. By quick way of introduction to myself, my name is Jenny Hurn. I am our Chief of Staff here at Ascend.io. And with me, more importantly, on today's call are two of the folks who are going to be walking through today's labs. We have Cody Peterson, who is product lead here at Ascend.io. And we also have Jacob Matson, who is the developer advocate at MotherDuck. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, it's awesome to be here indeed.
Yeah, I think it's been really fun to work with you both on prepping for today's call. This delightful data stack, this term that we're coining for Ascend and MotherDuck together, I think is just so fun to work on. I think people are going to have a lot of fun as they build in today's lab. I'll hand it off to Cody and Jacob to get going from here.
All right, let's dive in. Thank you, Jenny. Just one more note on housekeeping. So we do want to get to this hands-on portion, and we will get there pretty quickly, just after a few slides. And then everything we run through will be in a document that you can follow along with. We will be going through all this live, so you can just follow through on my screen step by step. But if you get fall behind or need to do this at a later date, you can always follow that document. On the agenda, we're going to overview what this delightful data stack is. Then we're going to jump into the hands-on lab, get started signing up for both Ascend and MotherDuck, and build an end-to-end data ops agentic workflow. Just to motivate this a bit, want to give a little bit of history of DuckDB and this delightful data stack. So for context, if you have not heard of DuckDB or MotherDuck, the first Git commit to DuckDB was made quite a few years ago now, back in 2018. That was not the true start of DuckDB. The team that built DuckDB had previously been working on a piece of software called ModADB, and really been building on decades of research into optimizing query engines and OLAP and vectorize things and all that fancy stuff. So these are definitely experts building DuckDB starting about 7-ish years ago. And DuckDB continued to mature to the point where the founders of MotherDuck decided to build a company based on it, building a data warehouse SaaS on top of DuckDB that scales, adds multiplayer capabilities, and really keeps things quite simple. So MotherDuck is really out to prove that you can do most data workloads on a single node, and DuckDB and MotherDuck have proven that that is quite a capable thing to do in the 2020s. A few years later, back in 2024, last year, DuckDB had matured to the point where they declared their version 1.0 release, and MotherDuck similarly had matured to the point where it launched as a GA product. This represented a huge milestone where both of these pieces of software are indicating that they are production ready. Of course, many people had been running quite heavy production workloads before this, but this just marked a point of maturity that is awesome to celebrate. And finally, this year, here today, we have MotherDuck and Ascend teaming up to bring you the delightful data stack. One of the big issues that we hear when we talk to teams, and we actually run an annual survey here at Ascend, is basically that data teams are drowning in their work. 95% of data practitioners report being at or above their work capacity, and improving productivity remains a top priority for teams. To do this, to reduce the burden on data engineers and analysts, many teams are investing in automation and looking to do that in 2025. Of course, increasingly with agents and AI in the mix these days. So why is data engineering so complex? Why are data teams behind? One of the reasons we like to give for this is just the complexity of the ecosystem. If you try to stitch together a full end-to-end data platform with ingestion, transformation, orchestration, observation, even optimization, you end up having to stitch together a bunch of different these logos that you see on this MAD diagram. This is a diagram that a VC firm puts out every year that shows a bunch of different players in the space. But yeah, that complexity really builds up when you're spending your time as a data engineer gluing together a bunch of disparate systems and dealing with those points of contact instead of focusing on writing your SQL or Python code and really doing the things that engineers love to do, which is building. With that as well, I'll hand it over to Jacob to talk a little bit about how MotherDuck simplifies this process and really improves upon data warehousing.
Yeah, thanks, Cody, for the intro here. You know, what I really love about what we're doing at MotherDuck is giving you just enough of the abstraction to make it feel really nice to use. You know, it's a fully managed database. So that means that you kind of log in and you create it, and that's it. You're not worrying about tuning all the things on the back end, which is great. The time to insight is really fast, right? Like by the time you sign in, you have a database provisioned for you. So for those who really care about getting started and getting your data into somewhere where you can analyze it, it's really great to get started. And then, of course, because it's built on this great foundation of DuckDB, it's very performant and cost effective. And I think what we'll also see is this plays in really nicely with agents and the building fast feedback loops and getting feedback and running your tests and all of these things that we can automate if we are, with agentic workflows, if we have kind of the right tooling underneath. So really, really excited to tie these pieces together.
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. Yeah, we like to say fast is delightful, and getting those feedback loops or AI agents
Right.
tight is definitely important.
Absolutely.
With that as well, we are seeing AI really take over across the industry, seeing AI success stories for years now, even predating ChatGPT. But in software development, we see that agents are writing increasing code and making debugging faster. We have data from GitHub Copilot there, and increasingly we have products like Cursor and Claude Code and Gemini and all these other tooling that are fundamentally changing how software engineering is done. But it's not just limited to software engineering. In marketing, we see that agents can optimize campaign spend by 336%. In support, agents are often used as the first line of defense, and can increasingly solve, 90% plus of inquiries from people hitting your support staff. Similarly, on human resources, a lot of reaching out to candidates, a lot of repetitive tasks can be automated and free up your team to focus on higher leverage things. And with sales as well, qualifying leads, booking meetings, increasingly being done by AI. So we see these success stories everywhere, but going back to our slide before, data teams don't really have the capacity to go and implement AI or do this kind of agentic data engineering workflow. And that is why we're so excited about the delightful data stack, the combination of MotherDuck, which gives you that simplicity, that low cost, that reliability, and performance to scale up to terabytes. And I don't know what your biggest customers are these days, but I know DuckDB scales quite well, and Ascend to give you the end-to-end orchestration. So with that, this is what we call the delightful data stack. Again, Ascend handling that upper data ops lifecycle, where you develop in a workspace. We'll go and see the Ascend workspace in a few minutes here. You work with SQL YAML code forms. You work with agents. Everything's version controlled automatically for you. We provision Git repos for you. Of course, you can bring your own. And then you can do the other side of the coin, deploying things, orchestrating your pipeline, setting them to run on a schedule or in response to event-based triggers, and even using agents within your pipelines to monitor things, gather context, post to Slack, potentially even open PRs. So this agentic data engineering or delightful data stack, as we call it with MotherDuck, is quite useful and able to automate a lot of the drudgery of data engineering. And of course, when you stick DuckDB or MotherDuck rather at the bottom, you get that scalability, you get that simplicity. And as you'll see, we should be able to get through the full signup process and set up for both products in about the 35-ish minutes that we have remaining. So with that, we're going to switch gears. Everyone get your laptops ready and get ready to follow along as we go through and get building. So what are we going to do? We're going to first go sign up for Ascend, get into the product and click one button, and then Auto is going to go and build our first data pipeline for us. I forgot to mention earlier, but the goat animated figure that you'll see throughout Ascend is Auto, our agentic data engineering assistant. Then, while Auto's building that pipeline, we're going to go sign up for MotherDuck and then do a few steps to grab an API key and swap out our Ascend managed DuckDB for MotherDuck to benefit from all the scalability and things there. And then we will rerun those pipelines, deploy them, and really explore how we can think about this end-to-end data ops workflow. With that, I'm going to point you over to our events page and go there myself. And this will have all the steps we're going to run through. I encourage you to watch my screen as I'll be running through all of these live and follow along.
Yeah, so I'm back. We do have several people on the call today. We'll try to take it as slow as we can to make sure everyone's keeping up with what we have going on. But if you do get behind, the link to the doc is in the chat. It's docs.ascend.io/events, and click that first event for today's Agentic Data Engineering with MotherDuck Lab. If you have questions as we go, feel free to throw them in the Q&A tab within Zoom. And I will be here kind of monitoring that from the side while Cody walks through all of this with you.
Awesome. Let's dive in. We also have links to the Slack, as well as MotherDuck's community Slack here in the doc, and a link to that dedicated channel for this lab. With that, the first step is we're going to navigate to app.ascend.io/signup and go and sign up for Ascend. One very important thing to note here is that we do disallow personal emails like at gmail.com and at Yahoo and various others for spam and other reasons. So you will need to use a work email. Also, your free trial will last for 14 days. Your MotherDuck trial will last for 21 days. So you do have a couple weeks here to use both products. But let's head over to the Ascend form. You can go ahead and fill this out.
Yep, so go ahead and put in your email address. I'll talk for you, Cody. I know talking and typing isn't my specialty. But yeah, like Cody said, make sure that it is a work email address. Personal email addresses won't work on this particular form, unfortunately. So once you have that, you can go ahead and click sign up. And you should get after a moment, you should get a little checkbox that says that you're confirmed. And from there, you'll go to your email. And Cody, if you just pop back to that doc too, it has a screenshot of the email you should be looking for. It should come from support@ascend.io, should have a cute little picture of Otto. Oh, Cody, oh, yep, there you go. Cute little picture of Otto. And then you'll go ahead and click that accept invite link. And that should take you to the sign-in page. And from there, you can set username and password, or you can log in with Google OAuth.
All right, we'll give folks a second, just re-reviewing. We went to this first link, we filled out the form, we got the email, clicked accept invite, and now I'm right here about to click continue. And at that point, you'll basically get kicked into the Ascend screen and you'll see something like this. Once you're here, feel free to pause, but we're going to go ahead and click this button in the middle of the screen, and that will set Otto off on building our data pipeline for us, which we can see in this GIF on the dock. So I'll navigate back over, hit continue. Oops, close out of that. And that will just take a second to pop me into my Ascend instance.
Great. Awesome. We have Otto there ready to make data engineering delightful. So hopefully you all are following along and have gotten to this first home screen on the Ascend platform. I don't see any questions showing up in the Q&A tab, so I'm assuming people are following along fairly well for the most part. But if you're stuck anywhere or have questions, absolutely feel free to throw those in the Q&A tab as we go.
All right, I'm going to hit this. Otto is going to basically say some things to help you get started. These tours will pop up. You can start to go through those, but feel free to dismiss them. You can always get back to the tours from this getting started up here. But yeah, we'll see our Ascend workspace load in and Otto start getting to work on the right-hand side here. So basically what we've told Otto to do is please create my first data pipeline, and Otto goes and fetches a rule that tells Otto some instructions on what to do. You can actually go find that rule right here in the file system. If you look under Otto rules and then under demos, whoops, and you can see exactly what we're telling Otto to do here. But this will take a few minutes. Otto's going to go ahead and build some things. Just to note as well, as agents do work through things, they do tend to make mistakes, but part of the beauty of it is you let them iterate, basically in a loop. And as we mentioned earlier, when you have that tight feedback loop, it's usually able to pretty quickly build something. So you can see it's already built this flow here, auto goats demo. The sales flow was already there, but this one is new. So Otto is going to take another minute or so, probably finish building this flow for us. And Otto will actually go and run the flow as well. So while Otto is finishing that up, we're going to head back to the doc and basically start the process to sign up for MotherDuck and go and grab an API key. Once we do that, we're going to head back into Ascend and swap out this DuckDB that we're running here for MotherDuck. So hopefully you all have Otto building. I'm going to head back to the doc and scroll a bit further and go to sign up for DuckDB. So I'm going to click on this link to sign up for a free DuckDB trial. And you should see a page like this. Here as well, you can sign up with email and password or use one of these SSO options of Google or GitHub. I'm going to click the Google option and use a personal email address for the purposes of this lab. All right. I'm going to click through to Google. I'm going to use this personal email, and very similar to the Ascend workflow, you will get an email once you fill this out that you will need to accept. So I'm going to run through this. We're going to call this Cody Webinar Lab Ascend. Hi. That's probably not taken. And pick a region. Recommend choosing the North America region. That is the same region that Ascend runs in our default cloud instance. If you are based in Europe, feel free to choose Frankfurt, but generally recommend choosing North America here. We'll click continue and head through the rest of the forms, filling these out. Feel free to pick your title. I am a PM. I'll hit continue there. How do we plan to use MotherDuck? Personally, some AI-powered analytics sound pretty good. How familiar are you with DuckDB? Great question. I would personally rate myself as proficient, I would hope. And where does our data live? Everywhere. We use lots of things. All right. With that, I think there is one more screen. It's optional to invite other people. I will skip that for now. And we should get some confirmation from MotherDuck that I have been sent the email, I think, in a second. Oh, or I believe because I went through SSO, actually it skipped the email, if I am not mistaken. Just to show you, if you did go through the email password option or otherwise got a screen, you will get an email like this in your inbox, and you'll need to click to confirm your account. After that, you should land on the same step to add your first data. You can go ahead and skip this and go straight to the UI with this button in the top right, which I will click. And at the end, you should land on a page that looks like this, the MotherDuck UI. Pause there for a second. The next step is we're going to head into the settings from the top left and go and create an API key.
Yeah, so I'm just going to slow folks down in case you're behind a little bit here. Make sure you go through that whole sign up flow for MotherDuck. And when you do, once you get to this screen, you can go ahead and, like Cody said, go to those settings to set up the API key. Hopefully folks are catching up. I know the form might take people different lengths of time as you're filling that out.
Yep.
Again, all of these instructions are in that lab doc as well. So feel free to reference the lab doc if you get behind.
Yep. We're just coming up on part 4 here. We'll create the API key, go store it in Ascend, and go from there. Maybe just before we move on, we'll check on Auto real quick and see how that's doing. And it does look like it ended up getting a successful data pipeline and running it. If we double click into that, we can see these 3 components that Auto created and also see in the Git log all the changes that we have. Okay, let's head back to MotherDuck and proceed with part 4 here. So we're going to go into settings. We're going to go to access tokens, and then we're going to go create a token and copy that value and keep that in our clipboard for a minute while we put in the send. Again, from the home screen, top left, open your settings, open access tokens, and click create token. I call this Cody Ascend webinar. And because this is going to show on the screen here and on this recording, I'm going to go ahead and expire this in 2 days. I will also revoke it after this session. Obviously, do not share your credentials publicly. That is why we will store them in a vault. But this will flash on the screen. Actually, I'll leave it up for a second just so you can see. So you do need to copy this. You can hit the copy button right here, and that will put your token into your clipboard so that you can paste it into the Ascend Vault in a second. Again, keep this secret. Do not expose this, and I will rotate or revoke this token right after this lab.
Yeah, definitely helpful to have a vault so that you're not hard coding secrets into your code.
Yep.
Get back code.
Once you have grabbed that secret, we're going to head back into the Ascend UI here, and we're going to navigate out of the workspace and into our vaults. There are a few ways to do this. Probably the simplest is clicking up here, clicking in the top right on the name of the instance. So mine says Cody Peterson's instance, and then hitting settings here. Alternatively, and we'll go ahead and dismiss this tour as well. Alternatively, you can always navigate around through search. So if you just typed vaults or secrets up here, then you could also get to the same settings page. So in the top right, click settings or search. And once you're in settings, click on secrets and vaults.
Cody, were we going to do it in the environment vault?
Yeah, so we're going to click into this environment vault. This is an important note that we have vaults, a vault for the instance, and we have a vault for the environment. There is a little bit of explanation of that in this doc. The TLDR is that we put things like AI keys, like OpenAI or Anthropic, in the instance vault, and we tend to put things like data infrastructure in the environment, because the environment is what your workspace and deployment are actually running in. And don't want to get too in the weeds here, but in short, environments are how you can separate out like typical dev, stage, and prod workflows, and have different resources and different security isolation. So I'm going to click into the default vault here, the environment vault for the default environment, and then I'm going to click to add a secret. Again, very important, this is going in the environment vault, not in the instance vault. I'm going to name this MotherDuck, all caps, MotherDuck _ API _ token. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste that token that I copied from MotherDuck. So you can see that looks the same. Yep.
Yeah, we do recommend folks use this exact name because we will reference the secret later, so it'll be easier to copy and paste the code from the doc if you use the same naming convention as us, obviously.
Yes, absolutely. I'll do a re-review through the doc again. So we went and grabbed that token from MotherDuck. We navigated into the environment vault default one. We created a secret MotherDuck API key, or about to, and that's where we're at. So I'm going to hit create from this screen, and that will go ahead and create our secret, which we can see here. With that, we're going to navigate back into the workspace, and we're basically going to swap out the DuckDB connection that we have for the MotherDuck flavor of the connection using this API key. Similarly to navigating to the settings, a couple ways to do this. Probably the easiest is clicking on the top left here, and we can dismiss the auto onboarding screen and dismiss this tour as well. And then you can navigate over to your workspace, which should have basically your first name if we were able to get that from your sign up details. Otherwise, I think it's called developer. But click into that workspace. Alternatively, again, you can always search and navigate around like that, which is nice. But you should land back in the screen where we saw auto build that data pipeline from before. Once you're here, what you want to do is open this data plane DuckDB connection, which you can see in the left. If you don't see this, you're probably in this screen. You might even still see it there. But regardless, go ahead and open this up. You can also find it through the files under connections. But open that up and head to the doc. Let me go ahead and move this a little and copy and paste the YAML that we have here. It's very simple. Basically just saying DuckDB connection of type MotherDuck, using that API key that we just dropped into the vault. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this from the doc, head into Ascend. I'll select all this and just paste right over it. And before you even save this file, you can go ahead and hit this test button. That will go and test what you have. And it seems like it does not. I wonder if I made a typo in the secret. If you did this correctly, you should see what you see on the screen here with all of these tests running successfully. And now I'll spend a minute debugging. So first thing to do, as Auto suggested here, is to go and check that the secret name was spelled correctly. I'm going to go ahead and open a new tab. And head into my secrets and just make sure I didn't make a typo. Oh, I said token instead of key. Yep. That is my bad. So because I messed that up, I'm going to come in here and just manually edit this to say token instead of key. Hopefully you didn't make that mistake.
Sometimes following the doc is better than following the live human.
Yes. Correct that spelling mistake. Thanks, Auto, for the pointer. Test the connection, and we should see that everything is green. At this point, I'm going to save. And one indication you'll see that things are switched over to MotherDuck is going to be on the super graph. You'll see the MotherDuck logo. Actually, just saw it switch there from DuckDB into MotherDuck quite subtly. Let me go into the super graph. And you can also see here that the logo has changed. At this point, you can go ahead and run both of these flows, and that will put data in your actual MotherDuck database, and we can go and see it as well. If you click on these vertical 3 dots toward the top right of a flow card, you can just quickly hit run entire flow, and that should go ahead and kick off. That should go ahead and kick off your flow runs. So we'll see those starting up here. Once those complete, there's 2 ways we can go and see this data, one from the Ascend UI and then one from the MotherDuck UI. If I go and open up that data plane connection that we were working in before, you'll notice that there's an Explore tab here. I can click into that and basically see all of the data that's in my MotherDuck database. By default, MotherDuck puts this MyDB here for you, which I believe is empty, and also puts a little bit of sample data in here as well. Some Hacker News, Kaggle, other cool stuff you can go and play with if you want to. Otherwise, Ascend puts the data in this by default double underscore Ascend underscore profile name. Again, don't want to get fully in the weeds here, but profiles are basically how you're able to isolate different resources and workspaces from each other. So generally we recommend like having a workspace Cody profile, a workspace Jenny profile, a workspace Jacob profile, and then a profile for each of your dev stage and prod deployments. So then by default, Ascend is putting your data in separate MotherDuck databases, keeping that data isolated. As we look in here as well, we see both of those 2 flows that we have run, and we can go and look through the tables. MotherDuck, of course, has an even better UI for this. We'll get rid of my token, and if we go back to the MotherDuck homepage, we can also see that data has landed here as well. And from here, you can even right-click and do things like query in current notebook and start to get a cool view of that data in MotherDuck. So this is really great for dropping in, doing ad hoc queries, using the instant SQL things that MotherDuck has, and getting these results super quickly. And of course, we can come into Ascend. We can also explore in here, but generally going to be in Ascend, actually building out these data pipelines, working with Auto, and building up our capabilities for end-to-end data ops. Once you're here, it's really just a few more clicks to go through and deploy this to production, which is what we'll run through next. Reviewing where we're at, we've basically swapped out the DuckDB connection for a MotherDuck connection. I went ahead and right-clicked here and ran those 2 pipelines so that we can see all the things. Again, the note here on where that data gets laid out and how we format it with the profile name by default. Just to show you as well, I'll just say you can overwrite this as well. So there's a field in the connection where you can specify your own database if you want to use something else. But yeah, at this point, we're going to do the final step and deploy this to production. So all we have to do is back in the Ascend UI, we're going to head over to this source control tab. We can see the 5-ish files that we've updated, right? The data plane from DuckDB to MotherDuck, and then these fully new files that constitute that second pipeline. I'm going to go ahead and click this Open Git Log and Actions here, this big blue button toward the top. And here we can see the Git history. One really cool thing to note is we actually see these Git commit messages for each of those file updates that we made, or rather that Auto made. And I also didn't write these Git commit messages, right? Auto did. So Auto is always in the background helping you out, writing your Git commit messages, whether you save a file or edit and save a file, or whether Auto itself is actually making those edits. So that's really cool. You can drop in here, review things, make sure stuff looks good. But then we're simply going to merge this into deployment. So the way this works is that our workspace is set up on a development branch. You can see by default, it uses your first name /dev. And then the production deployment is set up on, I think, either the main branch or a separate production branch. Various ways you can set this up for a full dev stage prod data ops workflow. But we set it up quite simply for you in the default experience. So I'm going to hit this merge to deployment. One final view. Are you sure these are all the files you changed? Click merge to confirm. And that will go ahead and merge this new data pipeline that we built that's running on MotherDuck into our deployment. One last time, for now at least, navigating around the UI. So just as before, you can click the top left here to get a view of your deployments, or same thing before, you can search up here as well and go into projects and deployments, or search for that production deployment as we name it. So I'll click here from the home page, and that will take me into my deployments view. Again, going to dismiss this tour. As noted before, you can always pop up these tours again, which are nice to walk you through the UI. But we'll just look at it here. And first thing we'll see, it's a little bit sparse since we don't have any flow runs yet, but we'll fix that in a second. But we can see that the latest change was made just a few seconds or minutes ago by me, as the deployment did automatically pick up the changes to the Git branch and updated so that you can see both of these flows. One pro tip, if you do want to get to a view that looks like the workspace view quite quickly, you can hit this Explore Build button up here above the Build and Files tabs, and that will take you into a view like this that looks very similar to our workspace. One thing to note is that these flows have not been run yet. We do have an automation in here that will run the sales flow, I believe, every 4 hours. We can actually go and look at that and see that it has not run yet. I'll head back into here. But that basically has not been triggered yet. I'm not sure exactly when that would trigger, but sometime in the next 4 hours, the sales flow will run automatically. But you can always...
Sorry, Cody, to interrupt. Just want to say that's the difference between like a workspace is you have this workspace environment where you're kind of building and testing, but automations are disabled. So you're not wasting your resources on running flows that aren't necessarily needing to be updated, whereas your production or your deployment has those automations running. So you can have kind of that orchestration and automation layer that you want for your production pipelines.
So I'll go ahead and kick these off just as we did in a workspace, clicking this menu toward the top right and running entire flow. If you head back into the home page for the deployment, another way you can do this is clicking into either flow here and basically clicking this run flow button toward the top right. We can see that this one is already in progress running on our deployment and should just take some number of seconds or minutes to run both of these small flows. We can see that that one's done already. And just to show, if we head back into the MotherDuck UI and maybe kick it with a refresh, we should see that second database show up for the deployment. So again, we have our data from our workspace, and separately, we have our data from our deployment. Looks like the sales data is loading in here as well. With that, just a quick review to show as well. I'm going to head back into my workspace and just kind of show the automations so that you get a little bit of understanding of where and how this is running. So If I open up this sales automation, we see the code for this, which is a YAML that looks not dissimilar to like GitHub Actions or other things. Basically telling you when do you want to run this and what do you want to do. A nicer view of this is in the Configure tab. This is a feature that we call Flex Code, which just gives you kind of nicer UIs to operate on this YAML and other things. So with that, we can see that this is running on a timer sensor. It's running daily, and this special cron syntax is basically saying every 4 hours. And what are we doing every 4 hours? We're running that sales flow. So you could come right in here and basically add a second action to run goat flow and run my goats flow. If you want to, feel free to just go ahead and save this, and you can even follow the same route to go and deploy this to production. And at this point, you would actually be running your automation, both flows in your automation in your deployment. You might want to rename this since this is called sales.yaml. You could also separate these out into 2 separate automations. Plenty of ways that you could do this, but hopefully that's a little bit illustrative of how you can use these. The other thing to point out is you can run auto in these. So you can run activity summaries, get email alerts, but you can also just run a generic auto agent task. This is very useful if you set up auto with external tools through MCP servers, which are pretty easy to configure, and basically have auto do things like if a flow run fails, which is a type of event that you can trigger on, gather all the context and post it into Slack, or maybe send a PagerDuty alert if a certain flow is failing in production. Kind of infinite possibilities here, working with auto and working on this delightful data stack.
Yeah. This is cool. I think it's really fun because one of the really exciting parts of working with AI is we're really only limited by our own creativity as far as what we can accomplish with these agents. And so I think these are a fun couple of examples, but I'm excited to see what other people come up with as they continue to build these agentic workflows over time.
Yeah.
I know we are coming up on time here. I just want to give a shout out. If you have questions that we didn't answer, go ahead and throw those in the Q&A tab. Don't want to cut you off, Cody, but just want to give people like a last call if they had questions that they wanted to answer, get answers on today.
Yeah, just reviewing as well. So hopefully you've followed along and been able to run through this all. We'll be around on Slack or email if you want to follow up, but we went through developing a data pipeline in an isolated workspace, doing some YAML and SQL code, or really rather having Auto do that for us, the whole time everything being version controlled. Then we went and deployed that into a deployment where we have all this observability into past flow runs and things. That dashboard gets a lot prettier once you have more flow runs over time. And you can take a bunch of custom actions with agents and things. All this is really powered by our unified metadata collection system, Intelligence Core. So when you head into Auto, you can ask things in your deployment like about your flow run history or Git commits or various other things about your data pipelines. And again, you power this all with MotherDuck. You start to get that simplicity, scalability, price performance, and multiplayer capabilities brought to DuckDB that truly makes this the delightful data stack. Any questions or final comments? Otherwise, I'll stop talking.
Well, why don't you pull up, yeah, that final slide. I'll leave the Q&A tab open for one more second. And while we leave this up, there's a QR code if you want to connect with Team Ascend or if you want to get started with MotherDuck. The links are there. I will also send those out in a follow-up email to later today or early tomorrow, along with this recording. We do have one question in the chat. It's, can auto create non-relational data pipelines? For example, image and file conversion data pipelines? Cody, do you have a answer for that?
Yeah, technically, yes. Auto relational data pipelines are definitely going to be more straightforward, but Python is fully supported, and Auto can work with Python. So you can basically use any Python package. I'm blanking on what the Python ones are for images, but you can basically use anything in there and load that into MotherDuck and yeah, work with images or unstructured data as well.
Great. I think we're right around time. Jacob, really appreciate you being here, and it's really fun to work with you on this. I know, we've just been real delighted by the delightful data stack, and so we appreciate you being here. Again, if you have questions for us, we'll follow up over email, and feel free to reach out to us. We're so grateful for everyone for your time today, and we'll see you all next time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.